Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 499. It's our last one of the 400s and our next to last one altogether. And so today, as we kind of continue our nostalgia tour as expeditions wrap up, we're going to be drafting this Nox and my Darius. And it's one of the interesting archetypes to me, not so much as it exists in its current form now, but as kind of what has historically happened with the Nox and Might archetype. And so, way back when, in the days of Foundation, and then even into the days of the release of the Bilgewater set, Nox and Might Darius was one of the most powerful archetypes in the game. It certainly is not now. It's down in tier 3, pushing onto the borderline of tier 4. We never build around Darius because he's so expensive, but there was certainly a point in time when he was at the top of the tier list and just running around with this really ultra powerful aggressive number coming out of Noxus. And so we can pull it up on the site, but I mean, it certainly looks different than it used to. The only one drop living here now is Legion Rearguard. This also used to have the 2/1 one drop that attacks and deals damage, and then it had a big suite of the two cost units that deal a lot of damage. There was the unnerfed Legion Marauder, or not the Marauder, the Grenadier, the 3/2 for 2. He used to do 2 damage to face. There was the likes of Imperial Demolitionist. I think it used to do 3 damage to face. And then things like Crimson Disciple that also used to do 2 damage to face. And so you had this like really, really powerful early game collection of stuff. And then you still had your good mid game and late game overwhelms. The 4/3 for 3 mana overwhelm lived here, no longer here. The Basilisk Rider was, of course, something running around, and then we would also have Darius himself. And so that got nerfed into oblivion, and then that's kind of what makes me a little sad in terms of Expedition, is that like Riot never really found a new home and a new direction for us to take Darius. It was just they basically nuked the archetype. They took out the vast majority of the things that cost less than 3 mana. For the longest time, I kind of memed about the archetype that they basically just took everything that cost 3 or more, threw it in here, and called it a day. But they were never really able to achieve, what is this Darius supposed to do? What is his signature? Is he the champion of the overwhelms? Is he the champion of 5 attack matters? Is he the champion of Nox and aggression? Is he the champion of Nox and midrange? They were never really able to assemble and find a home for him. And that kind of leads into why I kind of really get why Expedition is going away. It's not even like just a cost of, if someone asks, like, why aren't they just keeping it around forever? Everything is already programmed in here. And it's like, well, that doesn't really paint the whole picture, right? They're going to have to still do, quality assurance as new cards come out. They have to make sure the new cards don't break the old stuff, like Jace still just not in the game. And so there's certainly more to it from a technical perspective that we don't see. But then they would also need to be kind of like having someone curate these archetypes, which just has not been done for the past, I don't know, 6 months or so. And so I believe like the 2.12 patch was the last time that we saw some real updates, but I wouldn't consider that something that was really in tune with someone that was up and current on Expedition. No hate or disrespect to Deadbolt Doris, but I never really got the impression that he was super into the day-to-day of Expedition. But, without his efforts, we would have just had no updates whatsoever. And so, but that kind of, leads into the problems of just leaving Expedition sitting around and hanging out. There is, no one, or the resources won't be spent on having someone to come in and kind of curate and keep these archetypes up to date and going. And so, it's sad to see the archetypes go, but I thought this Darius one was kind of an interesting one in kind of terms of what has happened, how it used to be at least managed a little bit, and now it's just, kind of a pile of cards that aren't really that interesting. And so if that's what we're going to have, as far as the future is concerned, then it probably is for the best, just to kind of have it go by the wayside. And so this is what we'll be drafting. I did want to bring up, kind of like one more point up here. I will occasionally peruse the Reddit. I don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes it makes me feel happy. Most of the times I'm just kind of whatever about it. Just the negativity in the comments are usually just something I don't really want to welcome in my life. But I have, occasionally perused through there and I'd look for the expedition threads, and you would always see people say, I'm so glad to see expedition go away. Now they don't have to design cards for limited formats. It's just like one of these things where I just want to be like, you are out of tune. I wanted to call someone an idiot, but we won't use that wordage. We'll just say you were just kind of out of tune with the ways of the card gaming world in the terms of there's always going to be cards that aren't playable and the constructed format. I've mentioned multiple times. I forget who it came from. It was probably Mark Rosewater out of the Magic team, but it's something like, regardless of the size of the format and the number of cards within it, people will only ever play about 30% of the cards that actually exist in the game. And that was always one of the kind of things that was interesting and limited is, cards like Callous Bone Crusher, which is always an interesting one here. This is one of the cards that was like specifically tuned towards Expedition. This is just never going to find a home in Constructed, right? But that doesn't mean that it can't, help a new player learn about Reputation. Maybe it finds a fringe space in a Reputation deck somewhere. It's just, it's probably not going to see anything in Constructed realistically, right? If we're going to assemble a collection of good 5-attack units to get Reputation going, then we probably just don't want this unit in the first place because we have all these other good 5-attack units. And so in terms of Constructed, you're never going to see this, but it does have a home in Expedition. It's, reasonably meaty, all things considered. It has 4 health. It fixes some of the problems that Shurima has in not being able to survive a vulnerable combat. And we've had some real interesting homes for the like of Callous Bone Crusher. And, is it a card designed for limited? Maybe, to a degree. They've said that that's why it has 4 health now instead of 3. But just because Expedition is going away doesn't mean that we're not going to see these cards anymore. Magic uses the term called a skill tester, right? That's where, someone new to the game comes and picks it up. You see a card with some kind of like wild ability, and they want to get out there and try it because it seems cool, and they have to learn on their own that card is no good. You usually see this in Magic with things with like a 1/1 for 3 mana that have some kind of like mana investment ability attached to it. And it has like some kind of thematic theme towards what a lot of the cards do. But as a kind of card game veteran, you can look at it and be like, ooh, that one's Garbo. It's like those cards still need to exist and still are going to exist. Riot's not going to stop making them just because Expedition goes away and you don't actually have to play with it anymore. But it's one of those things I wanted to always kind of call out. With these limited formats out and running around, there is this kind of world as to where you can design cards that are never going to be good enough for Constructed, might be good enough for Limited, but still serve a role outside of that, whether or not it is teaching players how a mechanic works, highlighting a new mechanic or keyword, doing the skill testing. There's lots of interesting things that can be done with these cards, and that's not going away anytime soon. So, with the history and the chit-chat section out of the way, we will jump into the actual draft itself. As we mentioned, we are going to be drafting this Darius. And so let's swing back to the site and pull him up again real quick. And there are, a few different things going on with this archetype. First and foremost, I'll tell you, we usually just don't draft around Darius. Kind of the problem we see with Darius, we see with Garen. There's just not a whole lot of difference in between having a Darius and having, say, an Armored Tusk Raider, right? They're both 6 attack overwhelms. They basically attack once or twice and the game just ends. And it's not a ton of difference as to where, if we're running into curve problems, maybe we would prefer to draft, say, like a LeBlanc or a Darius or something, or a Draven, as opposed to Darius, because there's more filler at the top end, right? But you can't necessarily find as much stuff at the bottom end of the curve. And so that tended to lead to us just not drafting Dariuses. We're going to draft around old Darius today because it's this, the muscles are ready to come forth and really flex before Expedition is gone. But the kind of the problems that you run into with these things are managing the early end of your curve. And so like we kind of mentioned in the history section, the early part of the curve is non-existent in this archetype. And so we're going to have to really come in and fit in and find some stuff for the early game, especially if we're considering drafting a bunch of Dariuses. And so outside of that, this has kind of everything we could be looking for, right? It's got Whirling Death and Calling Strike in terms of removal, has some of the bonus combat tricks with the likes of Elixir of Wrath, has some challengers with things like Trifarian Glory Seeker. It just doesn't have the early game that everyone would be looking for, right? We have the Trifarian Glory Seeker here, we have the Trifarian Hopeful here. Outside of that, there's not too much. And so got to find the early stuff, and then we're going to look to just be closing these games out with overwhelms. And so in terms of finding a partnering faction, we're fine to jump into another Noxus champion. Sharima tends to work out, just mainly in terms of picking up Ruin Runners. Freylord always works out as well. Just looking for a nice complement here, and usually we just look towards the overwhelms. So, Darius, welcome to the squad. And what are our options here? And kind of interesting choices here. There is, first and foremost, the Swain. I don't really like the Swain archetype, but it does have a lot of the 2-drops in it, right? Is it Disruption? Maybe it's not Disruption Swain that actually has them all. Might be the other Swain. Is there 2 Swains? Yeah, I think it might be Mega Keg. So let's take a peek real quick. Yeah, Disruption is the bad one. There's no of the 2-drops in it. I was thinking towards the Mega Keg one that has the Demolitionist, the Grenadier, and the Crimson Disciple. That combo we talked about in the history doesn't live in this archetype. But that's the one I was kind of like initially thinking of. But down here with this Yuumi, she's kind of interesting as well, in that there's not a ton of good early game stuff in here, but one of the things we always shoot for are having like access to quick attack challengers. That Trifarian 2-cost 5-attack challenger is just so super powerful with quick attack, which we could look to pick up here with the old quick quill. And then I could see some decent usages coming out of this Yuumi. And so I think I'm pretty on board with this. If this was the Mega Keg Swain, that's what we would go for. But I definitely want to stay away from Radiant Dawn. The Mega Keg isn't here, it's only Disruption. And so I think we can put this together, maybe with some quick attack challengers in the quick quill. I do want to pull up Pets and Pecs real quick. I'm not super familiar with this archetype. Is she not up here? No, we haven't got the Yuumi version. I wanted to see if there were any of the earlier plays in here, like the Conchologist and such, but we'll just have to go with it as best we can. Okay, so how do we feel about this one? I'm going to let the Whirling Death go. This is the best card out of all of these, but Salt and Stitches isn't something we want. We're not really going to be drafting this discard Rumble style theme. And we'll pick up another Whirling Death along the way. So the card I'm looking at here is Rainbow Fish. I hate that this card exists in Expedition, but it is extremely, extremely powerful. But the flip side of that powerfulness is we tend to not need elusive in here, right? We're going to have all these big overwhelms with Darius, so it's not super important, but I could see attaching this to like a Trifarian or a Thorn of the Rose or something and getting a lot of value out of it. So that's what we're going to go with here. I'm not opposed to typically drafting Savage Reckoners, but if we're going to draft a bunch of Dariuses, then we don't need them as much. And then if we're going to draft Rainbow Fish as well, having the big late game overwhelms isn't that important. Okay, so here, just a nice early game package in the Yordle Squire Otterpuss. The Blade Squire is better than both of these, but I don't really want Shrieking Spinners in this deck, and so we'll go with the 2 cheap 1-cost plays here. Coming out of these, I worry about what our deck is starting to look like if we're not taking enough Noxus stuff. We haven't drafted any Noxus cards up to this point. But they've been pretty like off theme and off base. I'm leaning towards the Event Horizon out of this pack. The Trifarian Assessor tends to just be a little bit too expensive. I don't like the Assessor unless we're playing with the Yetis. It's just pretty challenging to get enough 5-attack units on board that are cheap for you to even draw like 1 card with this. But I think we don't. I think where this is going to land though is like I still have this like vision in our head that we're going to assemble like an Overwhelms deck, and I kind of want to wait for the decisive maneuvers. And so I'm going to let the Event Horizon go, take this kind of expensive bro in the Assessor. It may not be that bad if we're out here playing a deck with the attaches, right? We have Rainbow Fish, we have Yuumi, we have Quick Quill. And so that might give us enough unit boosting on board to get that guy going. Okay, and so here, I think we just stuck taking up more cheap cards. It's like I want to get this Assessor, but things like Wrathful Rider just aren't good enough. So I think that's okay. uh, just all over the place with these quick quills. Definitely not coming together how I envisioned, but I think it's okay. We're still going to stay away from these Wrathful Riders. These will go up a bit in value now that we have a second quick quill, but I would rather get the second quick quill before we start picking up the Wrathful Rider. Okay, okay. Interesting. It's like all these glory and values keep turning up. I get why it's probably happening since we're drafting Noxus Bandle City, but it's just not a collection of cards we're really looking for. We've really hard avoided all of the discard stuff. And so coming out of this, I want the Conchologist the most. This is a pretty strong pack and a House Spider Brutal Hunter, but the Conchologist is a little tough to pass up on. What ultimately worries me here, though, is we have like started to assemble this nice like early game package of stuff, and we don't have any way to really take advantage of it. And I'm kind of leaning towards the like wanting the interactivity and the challengers of the Brutal Hunter. Pick up a good 2-drop in the House Spider. I think we still need to pick up some of this like Noxus half of this deck. Okay, well here I'm going to pick up the Legion Marauder. This is a fantastic unit with the Quick Quill. If we can pick up another Marauder or pick up a Strength in Numbers, that would be quite powerful. Shield Breaker's trash. We're going to look to trade this away, but I don't want a big stack of Quick Quills either. Alrighty, and here's our Decisive Maneuver with a Premier 1-drop. That looks pretty good to me. Still think we're going to get some of these Overwhelms coming together. Man, I got to pass on all the Loping Telescopes and all the Conchologists. I really want to pick up this Trifarian Glory Seeker here. It plays with the Quick Quills quite well, plays with the Trifarian Assessor quite well. Got to pick up some of these 5-attack matters kind of things. Okay, so how do we feel about Atakan? I don't think we really need it. Too many of these games shouldn't be going up to 10 mana. But he does have a nice 2-drop with him. There is the Primal Strength out here. I think I am leaning towards the Group Shot Primal Strength. Our spell count is kind of low. Most of our spells are just group shots, and so I need a little bit of combat interactivity. I think I like the Primal Strength in those terms. Another Legion Marauder. Cool. I'm definitely on board with that. And our last one before the trade picks. This 2-drop set to the end looks pretty good. I think our top end is okay, right? We haven't picked up too much expensive stuff, but we do have Yuumi, we have Rainbow Fish, we have the one Darius, and then as the draft continues and we pick up more Dariuses, I think that's going to look pretty good. So I'm going to go with the 2-drop package down here at the end. And this Whirling Death is going to be much better than the Prowling Projectile. I could see like an argument for trading away the Scholarly Climber for the Keeper's Verdict just to get the kind of catch-all removal spell. But if we're going to start like assembling this Overwhelm game finisher, then being able to use the Whirling Death in the middle of combat is incredibly powerful. If we take down whatever is blocking our Overwhelm unit, then we get to slam in all of that damage. So, looking pretty good, pretty cool. So, you all know what time it is. We do have to go pay the pay-to-win price and turn something premium. Bandle City and Noxus. What do we got here? So, neither of these bros are in the deck. Oh, you know what we could do? I bet we could go and just level up Darius. I feel like that feels appropriate. We're getting like right here at the end. Is he premium yet? Nah. Does he got skins? You got skins, Darius? Oh man, how do we look at that? Is that out this way? The loadout? I don't think Darius has skins, but let's take a look real quick. No, it's just the OG. All right. I'm on board with this. Let's see. Cards. Darius, premium mode. All right, look at that shiny stuff. Probably never get to see him premiumed again, right? Because we're just never going to play him in Constructed. But he's ready to go out here in Expedition. Such a sad place for some of these cards. It's like just never going to see it in Constructed. I love that we're able to really come out here and play a lot of these in Expedition. I'm curious what is in store for Path of Champions 2.0. That's kind of what we're waiting around a bit for in terms of what to do for the channel. We're going to have to wait another 6 weeks or so before that's out. But, that is a nice home for some of these kind of cards that don't necessarily make their way into Constructed. I don't think Reckless Trifarian is going to make his way into too many Constructed decks these days, but he might still at least have a home in the Path of Champions. But here, reasonable start. These Legion Marauders are quite powerful. I was hoping that we could, find our way into a quick quill, but this is okay nonetheless. It's nice. We got some nice combos with the Quick Quill. Like the works with the Legion Marauders. It works with our Glory Seeker. You can typically find more Glory Seekers as the draft goes on. And what if we just slam it on our Legion Rearguard, right? Just make a 4-attack quick attacker. That's a pretty scary unit. He says, bring on the damages. Thresh Fiora. Okay. So this probably is the Mentor's Fiora. That's one of the archetypes I used to hate in the olden times, but because it was really kind of like confusing for what people should expect out of Expedition. But now that the Mentor's Fiora is here, it makes a little bit more sense, and that all of the formidable cards are now in this archetype. So I expect to see a lot of these Broadhound type things turning up the rest of the way for us. Okay, so I would like to get more than one attack out of these Legion Marauders. It's kind of an awkward space that we're in here. I'm going to lead with the Prank and see what we can hit. Neither of these are particularly good. I'm going to take the Can't Block off of the Doom Beast. I was hoping to see if we maybe find a play that he's looking to make this turn. But let's just go in with the Trifarian Hopeful. Build up to the Legion Marauder board. It's going to be like turn 6 or turn 7 before these are realistically going to come down, right? If we're going to, well, we might play one next turn, I guess. But if we want the Brutal Hunter on board and challenging stuff to protect our Marauders, then we're probably just going to continue to play on curve and follow up with the Shield Breaker on 5. Sure. Ranger's Resolve for the Otterpost sounds like a pretty good deal. Just chunked him through for massive damage as well. That's the way I like my damage, just massive. He brings down the Can't Block Doom Beast. Interesting. Interesting. Just like nothing to do. Is that why we saw the Ranger's Resolve, was to simply get the Doom Beast activation? That's wild. Let's get rid of his blocker. Okay. Not too much of a problem there. And so now I think we just want to play all of our mana. So we'll add the Brutal Hunter. We'll see next turn if we want to drop the Marauder or the House Spider. I'm curious if we draw a Trick or something beforehand. We did draw a Trick. Can't cast it. We just go with the Shield Breaker. I think the game is going to end before these Marauders are relevant, but being able to protect them with like a Brutal Hunter and with a Whirling Death sounds pretty good. I feel like he's going to have a Trick for the Brutal Hunter, but he's just going to take 1,000,000 damage here. Okay. That's a 5 mana prevent 5 damage. That feels like a win for our team. And the big decisive maneuvers. That'll give us a nice open attack next turn. He has no plays. That can't be good. Well, we're definitely opening. I'm not playing into the Ruination. I think we should be okay here. As he brings in the emotes, lots of sad faces. Let's cupcake it. Boom. Victory for Team Darius. All right, we got to continue to build around our bro. We can, let one copy go. I'll call it a build around once we get 2 copies of a champion, but really looking to stack up the Dariuses today. And what's he got? A Legion Rearguard with a Sharpened Resolve. That looks good. This is like a really powerful Yuumi. I mean, we would have done a lot of this stuff differently if we weren't looking to just draft around Darius, but I think the Yuumi is probably the take here. Friendship is incredibly powerful, especially in terms of protecting Darius later on. But I want to get the copies of our bro in here. Look at how giant these arms are, man. This guy's huge. It's huge. He's ready for battle. We got a Legion Rearguard in there. Another one of our friendly favorites. Nothing better than that. All right, some kind of 3-faction deck. Victor, Yuumi, and Zoe. Not a bad curve to start off with here. This is typically the Victor Zoe kind of things are augment decks, right? The idea with Victor Zoe is you can attack with Zoe, generate the star chart, then the star chart can generate another card, and then you use all of that card generation to fuel your augments. Usually not too relevant in Expedition because it's that problem as to where I always recommend drafting 3 copies of one champion and one of another. And so if we draft 3 copies of Victor, then it's really hard to pull off the Zoe. If we draft 3 copies of Zoe, it's really tough to pull off drawing your Victors. And so something that didn't quite pan out that well in Expedition. Uh-oh. People just getting aggroed all out of here. Bringing them emotes. Let's use one. Alright. Bringing in the thunder. This is like such a problem having the deck tracker over on the left. It's like I feel like we don't use our emotes on the left quite enough. Like I really only like the echo and the cat. I want to get rid of the sad poro, but yeah, so we got the deck tracker over here on the left. You just got to know which one you're using. these are the struggles we face with each expedition. Just never been a fan of it over here on the right. Nobody looks to the right. It kind of covers up the mana. Like if it's over here like this, you can't see how much manas we have. But if it's over here to the left, you can't see what emotes we're using. So all a struggle. Okay, let's get this Brutal Hunter in here. It may not survive the combat against the Sparklefly, but I at least want to be putting some pressure on it. Alright, well, not just giving him the free win. So this is going to be a pain to deal with. It's going to be a 6 health by the time it rolls around to our next turn. So we're going to have like 2 options here, right? We can hook it with the Glory Seeker, put a tiny spear on it to deal 6 damage. It's kind of a sketch line. Or we can look to just hook it and attack around it. The Thorn of the Rose was a pretty choice draw, though, now that we can come in and just stun the Sparklefly. I think we can find ourselves in a space to where, like, say opponent plays Victor here, right? And we're able to just next turn stun the Sparklefly, get it out of combat, hook the Victor with the Brutal Hunter. He blocks the Reckless Trifarian, but, no. I don't know. The more I talk about this and realize he's getting closer to 20, we're just going to have to deal with the Sparklefly. Not ideal. Not ideal. Uh-oh.
You name it, I'll nick it.
So how do we deal with this? We only have like the Whirling Death as means to try and take it down. I think we just have to slam damage onto the fly. So we want this attack to go first. Otherwise, it's not going to... He's going to lifesteal all of the damage that we do. And these can come in after the fact. This is painful. He did not draw any interactivity. Now, we could have, of course, done it a little differently. We could have played... Well, opponent would have, realistically been able to figure out what we were trying to do to the Sparklefly if we played the Squire and the 5/1 on his turn. We were never going to get an open attack into it. All right. So I don't see how we beat this unit. We don't have any Scorched Earth type cards. Here's our way to do it: is Darius. So this attack is actually not that big of a deal, right? We're going to fall to 8, but he's only going to gain 2 health. That's the big thing that just happened with that one. I think we're going to have to advertise that Darius is coming, but I don't think we have any other options in these terms. So now next turn we should be able to stun the Sparklefly, and then if we can deal 10 damage, Darius might come in and do the work. It's going to be fairly easy for him to get a big board, though. Gotta find something. Maybe we'll find a Whirling Death. Decimate is kind of interesting. Not in terms of helping us end the game, but if we can kind of play it pre-combat to help Darius get our opponent down to 10. I mean, I'm not really seeing how we're going to do this. He's going to be able to slam a bunch of units on the board, but sure. All right. Well, that was a fun and interactive game. That's I mean, we've passed on a bunch of Whirling Deaths. It's not entirely as it sounds. And here, I think we can skip over all of these. I want to hang on to our combat trick. Again, like we only have 8 spells. Most of them are group shots. We don't have tons of ways to deal with our opponent's stuff. Don't need the top end. We have the Darius is coming in, and we have the Rainbow Fish. And then we're not going to hit the Allegiance on our Basilisk Rider, so we'll skip over all of those. And so, yeah, I mean, we could have done that differently. We could have spent one turn hooking the Rainbow Fish with the 3/3 Challenger, just knowing that it was going to die, and then we could have followed up with the 5 attack Challenger the next turn. Doesn't feel like it's probably going to be enough damage to kill it, but it is an angle we didn't take. You usually just have to kind of ignore that thing and hope that you can attack around it, but it's kind of a tough board to present itself like that. Okay, but I think I'm kind of cool with this. We can see what we can do with the quick attacking Thorn of the Rose, and that we play the Precious Pet on 1, then we're on the even attack token, so we'll get to play the Thorn on 3, then the Quick Will on 4. I could see that being a thing. Okay, it's a little different with the Trifarian turning up. Might just want to get the big boy squad on board, but that's how you aggro. Playing Diana, I was like, play that, play that 3/1, that 3/1 that gives you 2 mana if you Nightfall. I wanna group shot it and just blow this up. Gotta do something here, my dude. Like if he had a Diana, he would have snapped it off. But it's very weird seeing both of the Nightfall champions along with Pantheon. I wonder, it's like, how do you land on this deck as to where if you start Nocturne Diana, why are you ever adding in Pantheons? And I guess in this world you could start with Pantheon Nocturne and then want to pick up Dianas as your 3rd and 4th champion. It's odd seeing them come down like this. Starry Scamp is less than intimidating.
Let's make this a night to remember.
This is all just too good to get the Quick Will on board. Next turn we'll be able to add both the Trifarian and the Otterpuss. We'll have 2 spell mana. We'll be able to group shot for the full 2 damage. I just don't see a world where this Quick Will comes down. It was a good thought, though. It's a good idea. What you got for us, my dude? Are we going to lethal this turn? We could lethal this turn. If he spends like 4 mana on a dude, we get to group shot the 2/2 and then Guile the Nocturne or whatever he's going to play here. I think the way that this would actually be the most painful is if he played like a Pale Cascade into Nocturne. We wouldn't have great answers to any of that. Well, that shuts down what we're doing. We can go for the quick quill now, but that's not interesting. Okay. Let's put the plus cost onto the Stalking Shadows. I don't think the power on the Blinded Mystic is ever going to matter. Almost clicked on it. That was that was almost a disaster. But don't think we need to group shot just yet. Let's get this little bit of damage in. He can't block our Fearsome. Come in for little damage, get us a little bit closer to having a Darius kill. I think this is fine. There is like some argument to want to come in and preemptively hit the Blighted Caretaker. If we're gonna like worry about our opponent having a Spirit Leech next turn, it keeps them from drawing the cards. But I feel like if they play Spirit Leech next turn, we just win the game anyways. So it's not that big of a deal. All right, bringing in the 1/1 squad.
Spilled paint is just accidental art.
Your friends are ready, Darius. You can come down next turn and do your thing. So he's going to send a 1/1 into the Thorn of the Rose. I mean, that's fine. We can't block Nocturne here, and that's fine as well. And so I just kind of see this turn coming about as he's going to hook the Thorn of the Rose with the 1/1. We'll play Group Shot on it. I don't want to stun the Nocturne until next turn. And so we can just let all of that go. Let's just pass. And pass. All right, now that our Thorn of the Rose successfully survived, let's put the bonus onto it. Get ready to do some Darius stuff. Favorite stuff in the world is the Darius stuff. He may not be able to get the flip here. Like if we're gonna stun Nocturne and he gets to play 2 units, then it's not gonna pan out. We're gonna be a little bit short, but we're still in a pretty good spot here. We actually get to draw cards with this this Trifarian Assessor. It's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with drawing cards. That always makes me like stop and consider is like the degree, like how would we feel about Conchologist if it was a 2/2 for 2 that just drew a card? Because right there are like positives and negatives to that either way. In terms of if do we actually want to hit the Nocturne here, or do we want that blocking our big boys? Like, so what's going to happen here is we're going to attack. He's going to block both of our big units. Our littles will only come through for 4. So I'll take him to 11, then we'll take the Darius hit, but it does force him to block with his Nocturne. I think that's fine. There are like positives and negatives to the Manifest, right? Whereas if you're drawing cards from your own deck, you intentionally put them there. To where if the real odd parts and problematic parts from that come from the Manifester, you get to pick the situational cards that don't naturally exist in your deck. But here, this is fine. We're going to lose our Darius. He's going to lose all of his board. We're going to have a 4-unit board against a Spacey Sketcher after this turn. Still get to draw 2 next turn with Trifarian Assessor. I think this is all A-okay in my books. It would have been an argument to take down the Nocturne, but I think this is all well and good. It's like, what's he do now? If he plays like an Eclipse Dragon, that's kind of fine. The unit that would be worrisome at this point is if he has the double stun. Hey, Darius came right back with the good friend Rainbow Fish, everyone's favorite interactive card. We should be in a pretty good space now. Now, the Quick Quill can't survive a fearsome dog. Might be worthwhile just to throw a unit in front of him anyways, but would we rather just spread our damage out for the next turn? That seems pretty realistically fine. Okay. So the only thing that would worry me about this sort of game is I don't want to die to a atrocity. So we'll come out here and prevent the damage where we can. We're still looking pretty good for the next turn. Definitely gonna be dropping Darius. See if they spend a bunch of mana on something irrelevant. We can always just pivot to using Rainbow Fish, but this is not the space for a 1 health unit. He's not like a guaranteed lethal. He can get hushed or something here, but I think we're pretty reasonably far ahead. Boomed it. The Darius trial does not end there. Good job, my dude. Give him that Nox and Might. All right, so what are we getting here? Atakan. Atakan always wants to be a part of the battles here. So I don't really want to get rid of this Thorn of the Rose. Elixir of Wrath is not one of my favorite combat tricks. If we're in like one of these really, really aggressive Noxus decks, then it tends to be okay. But it's just not the space we're at here. It could be okay in this deck in terms of, like, we have the Quick Quills to give out quick attack, but I feel like we're just going to win all those combats anyways. So we'll let the Elixir hang out back behind. Want to hang on to our group shots, don't want Atakan. We'll skip over that. All right, next battle. Yetis. I see some constructed play on occasion. There you go. There's your cards. You have a whole swath of cards that never get to see the lands of ranked battles. Poor Gaz. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. All right, where's this perfect opponent at? Can't be playing the poor robot. Maybe. Guess you shouldn't say can't to that statement. It looks like we're getting closer and closer to that statement being a fact. There we go. Opponent has been found. The old LeBlanc and Jinx. Alright. So let's see if we can't get these group shots to hit. That's a one way to deal with a LeBlanc. You can just hit her for the 2 damage. Alright, my dude. We're all doing that aggro thing. This is probably going to be the best match of the week. Perhaps even the month, maybe the year. A little bit of that aggro on aggro action. All right, not quite the time for a sharpened resolve. We're gonna get to doing some big booming here in short order. I don't want to throw our small units away into the ballistic bot since we do have the group shot, Wait and see what they play. I feel like we're probably just attacking with the Precious Pet and the Trifari in this turn. It's also safe to attack with House Spider. I assume he blocks with LeBlanc like never. So we should be pretty ready with the House Spider to try and take her down. Or with the House Spider with the group shot. Sure. Good job, Trifari, and you got your 2 for 1.
My move.
All right, didn't want to throw the stats in front of LeBlanc. I want to have the 4 units on board for the group shot, and we're not like at super risk of dying. Taking the 1 hit to 15 is not a big deal. It's so wild coming from the land of magic as to where like that 1 hit from 20 to 15, like all the time you're just like, yeah, whatever, don't care. And in Runeterra, you actually have to be kind of wary of it, just from the way the game's pace and every unit having flash essentially. But coming out here, I'm just going to go with the Shield Breaker. If opponent wants to take like a value block of his 3/3 onto our Precious Pet and we just blast him for a million, I think I'm more than okay with that. He's not going to have the time to take the value out of this Crimson Curator. Let's just slam all this damage in. We're going to look to open attack on our next turn so that we can just kill with Darius.
Wasted effort.
So we hit for 7, take him to 7. Looks good. I was ultimately worried about there being a Whirling Death coming out of that, with opponent having 3 mana and blocking with LeBlanc, but I don't think we have to worry about that from this point forward. Our Darius should be pretty safe, I think.
Come, Clara, we have much to teach you.
I can't.
Sure. That 7 mana of combat tricks right on the ready.
It's nothing personal.
Okay. I don't quite understand this attack on the left. It's like, if he's going to play a combat trick to get out of this, I'm more than okay with it. Might's a little scary. We're pretty much out of all of the burn range, though. Okay. So Darius is about to get popped by the guillotine. We can still beat that. Do we want to play more cards, though? I think that we do. If his plan is going to be spending 3 mana on either a Scorched Earth or spending it on a Nox and Guillotine, then he's not going to have all the bandwidth to just put units on the board. Ravenous Flock, that's fine. Not. Let's do this. No, I was thinking ahead. I was like, that's only 1 mana. That's kind of unfortunate, but okay. He can't play more cards now. We're good.
Victory requires a sharp blade.
Got him. Okay. What do we got here? Darius number 3. Oh man, that's a tempting Papercraft Dragon. Ain't nothing wrong with putting Papercraft Dragons on Darius. It's unfortunate that he's our only overwhelm. We haven't gotten any of the mid-game ones. Yeah, okay. We'll just continue on with our bro Darius. We got to get a Decimate win anyways. And having 4 of the expensive overwhelms isn't too much. I'm not upset about having 3 Darius and 1 Armored Elephant. Can actually be kind of nice to have the variety, since you can't have 2 Darius on the board at the same time. So, sounds good to me. Hang on to our sweet 1 and our 2. Get a nice little combat package going. The Shyvana and Aurelian Soul. The full dragon package. I'm scared, a little bit. A little bit scared. Look at this guy. You remember when someone at Riot thought it was a good idea to make Legion Rearguard a 3-1? That was like the worst era of the game. Everybody's like, Bandle City's so bad. I hate Bandle City. They must not have remembered the sad days we suffered, the days and days of crying when Legion Rearguard became a 3-1. It's such a comeback story once he got his point of health back. It was basically comeback player of the year 2021. I missed you, my dude. I missed you. Now it just doesn't matter, right? Nobody even plays him in constructed. Poor guy. Life's hard. Life's hard. He might get a little bit of play in that mono Elise deck, but 1 health. You deserve so much more. You could probably even have 3 health at this point. The way power creep goes, you deserve it. You can't block anyways. I really hope this guy intends to rope every single turn of the game. That would be super appealing. Might have missed it at that point. You missed clicking the button, dude. The timers are going to start hitting you faster. Alright, guess he wasn't here. Let's stop the trash talk. It was a legitimate disconnect. He probably just saw he's playing FTP bust and dropped his phone in the toilet. We've known that to happen on occasion, and so this is something to worry about. And here I am going to go with the whispered words. We can like reasonably hit the reputations, and I think this is just quite a bit more efficient than the Tricessor. Like we have a lot of times where we don't have actual good ways to spend our mana, and so burning through the spell mana with whispered words is kind of nice as well. Definitely feels like an upgrade. Right, all right. Yeah, that is one of the pitfalls to playing something like Expedition or playing Gauntlet. Like, if I'm playing Constructed or on the ladder and opponent just takes too long, I'll just concede. You know, it's like whatever. It's just a game, but you know that could be like realistically end your day in an Expedition or in a Gauntlet. It's a little unfortunate. Okay, Pantheon, Diana, and Yuumi. Lots of Pantheon today. Seems like a reasonable enough start here. Got a 1, a 2, and a 3. We don't have the Noxus 1-drop for our Trifarian Hopeful, but that's okay. Still just playing a 3 attack 2-drop on curve is a decent enough deal. Happy enough to do so. What up, Darius? God, you're so shiny now. Get that. Such premium. Alright, let's get some stuff on board. If he just passes, we'll probably just pass it back. I don't want to lose the Hopeful to a Pale Cascade. Ew. That's kind of nasty. Well, we can let it go once, I think. You know, this is this kind of classic spot to where you have to decide if you want to attack around it or, you know, invest all of the stat points into taking that unit down. I don't think we're in a good space to just do that here. I kind of like this idea now of adding the Trifarian. Like, if opponent has something like a Zenith Blade, we're really just hosed. But if we get to, say, play the Trifarian, load it up with a tiny spear, and then try and Whirling Death down the Saga Seeker, that's all well and good. But we just do a Rainbow Fish. Oh. Let's get to having funs. Pantheon. Alright. It's nowhere near flipping. So is this going to be a turn we go for a Whirling Death? We just have to kind of ignore the Saga Seeker. But the flip side of this is we just have to survive 2 turns. And I didn't notice that his Tornado Warrior hit Overwhelm. That's actually kind of scary. He's going to stun our dude. Okay. Not awesome, but now we can add something to the board. Don't think we're going to get to take down this Pantheon in combat. He's probably going to attack at this point now. And so the things that would ultimately be a problem here would be if he has the +1/+2 twice. Crescent Guardian. Okay, we can deal with that. So we're going to get boomed for damage this turn. The Trifarian can't do anything about that. I'm curious if we shouldn't have taken an angle where we just tried to save up the Whirling Death for Darius next turn, but I think this is basically got to come down to if he has an answer to this Darius or not. Got to be attacking with everything, dude. You just figure out the right order. You have to push them all into the middle. So if we go like this, we're going to fall to 5. If we go like this, we'll fall to 7. I don't think the 2 damage is that relevant. It only leaves him with the 1 Overwhelm unit. And it's not even a good one. So I think this is good. The place where that one is awkward is if we should have blocked the 3/2 with our 5/4 so we could use the 5/4 to attack this turn. But enjoy. Here comes the squad. See what he's got for us.
Together, stranger.
Game says 0. It's not impossible for him to have a trick here, though. Mini-morph. Ew. That's kind of gross. But we do play quite strongly into an open attack here. I think we're okay. Unless he has another Pantheon or something. Of course.
We are all soldiers this day.
Don't think we have the stats. This might work. Game says we're still at 5. Nice. So, do we open now, or do we make a play with Darius? He's got to be flipped, and so if opponent's going to hit like our Trifarian with a Shield Vault, then the Darius still looks okay. My ultimate concern here is if he has like another Mini-Morph, and so I do kind of like getting both units on the board, so he has to have 2 answers to what we're doing. For adding him, it might also be worthwhile to add the rear guard just to try and get something taken down. I don't think so. I think it's probably a little safer to have the unit. Well, now that he's played Rummel, it doesn't matter. But I can say Hush doesn't work on attaches. GG. Okay. Enjoy the rainbow fish. That's so dumb. I wish that card was not an expedition. It's nice that we get to catch a victory with it, but I do not like that this card exists out here. All right, but with this one, there is the Iron Ballista, which is good, but I want to keep our curve as aggressive as we can. So I'm going to get rid of this Scholarly Climber for a Trifarian Hopeful. Push the curve down a little bit. Hopeful, man, he's one of those cards that's like good early and good late. Like in that game where we just played him on turn 2 as a 3/2, didn't care. If you get to play him as a a 5 attack on turn 2, it's beautiful. But then you even come up with these plays where it's like turn 5 and you play a Whirling Death and you play a Trifarian Hopeful. And it's just so nice to get that curve punching through. Again, another card, never relevant and constructed. But such a mainstay of limited formats. All right, with this Leona Fiora, I'm looking at this hand and looking to either, put Yuumi on a Legion Marauder, and then if opponent's board gets a little too scary, we do have Thorn of the Rose to stall for a little bit, but the play we're looking for is this Legion Marauder Yuumi here.
The guilty were banned.
Okay, if we get any card out of this, I'm happy about it. He's taking like a lot of time thinking about this block. I don't think you ever trade a Sharp Sight here. I mean, that's very strange to me.
What do we got here?
I don't know, dude. Does these guys play a Forecaster now? That's fine. Who does that hit? Oh, the Marauder, he's more expensive. Is there a world where we ever want to weapon hilt this this Legion Rearguard so that we can put the Yuumi on the good unit? I don't think so. I'm just going to play an additional 5 attacker and try and slam into the Leona. Should be pretty obvious we have a trick here when we're attacking with the Rearguard, but I think this is fine. If we get a trick out of their hand, it's well and good. That Sharp Sight that they've been wanting to play so bad. Oh no, maybe their hand just cost $1 million or something. I'm at a loss to what's happening now, but we are going to get to drop Yuumi on this board. We'll have some mana banked and then make a Darius play next turn. All sounds good to me.
Behold the sun's holy light.
Look at all my stats, Leona. And then if he attacks here, we'll just take it. I'm looking to just get the kill next turn with Darius. So we have the Guile. With the way that he's been sequencing, I have to imagine that this Guile is going to be a game ender. Cool. Boomed him. What are you doing, game? I'm clicking the button. Go away. Next game, please. Let's get ready for that final battle. And so here, Draven is interesting. Draven's quite good, but I think I actually want to hang on to Yuumi here. We don't have any Draven combos in this deck, and this Yuumi is quite nice with a lot of the things that we're doing. So I'm going to hang on to that. Want the quick quills. City Breaker sucks. I'd like to trade out the Shield Breaker, but City Breaker is just worse. Here, I am cool with the second Glory Seeker. We might get to pull off this Glory Seeker quick quill at some point, but I think it's better than the Whispered Words. The Otterpuss doesn't really have a home here. The Brutal Hunter does give us some good interactivity. I think that's fine. Hang on to the Tusk Raider. Don't want the Demolitionist. Don't want the Projectiles. We'll skip over that. No, Yuumi, you're staying with us today. Let's skip over all of these. Well, we could realistically hit the Reputation on this Tactician, but I feel like the game's probably just over at that point. So I'm going to hang on to the Yordle Squire. And our last one, want the Fish, want the Thorn, don't want the Lantern. We'll skip over that. Would be, I would be okay with the Lantern. The Lantern would be pretty good in this deck. I just want to hang on to the Quick Quills. But yeah, cool. I'm glad we made our way to the final battle here. Darius gets his send-off in fashion. He gets to get all premiumed. He gets to make it to the final battle. It's pretty cool, my dude. What is this? Garen, Shen, Caitlyn. All the factions. Okay. Not a bad start.
Reporting in.
All right, let's get them big damages in. was gonna say this is gonna be one of these games to where he plays the 2/2 elite for one, and then just hits the elite behold right at the very beginning of the game, and we just get irrationally upset. I was waiting on that one.
I need just a moment.
We cannot block. I will take the 3 damage right as you send it at us. All I'm looking for here, we're not going to get anything out of, well, we're getting stuff out of the Glory Seeker. We're not going to get a big attack out of the Glory Seeker unless we draw Quick Quill right now. But the idea with this board should at least be if he plays a 3-cost card here, we get to trade our 2 mana for his 3 mana. And then if he blocks with the Honored Lord on our small unit, we're trading our 1 mana for his 2 mana. And we're getting a nice mana advantage rolling on this board. Cataclysm, sure. So we got 5 mana for our 2. And 2 cards out of it. Oh shit, I forgot he's going to get his barrier. That's okay. Still at the end of the day, the same deal we talked about, right? We traded a 3 mana card for our 2, we traded a 2 mana card for our 1, and then we still chunked in the Trifarian damage. Now, do we want to save up for this Whirling Death? Because we're most certainly playing the Shield Breaker next turn. Probably going to want to. It's going to take the 3 from the Sergeant if he attacks with it. Still have good attacks with the Shield Breaker and the Trifarian. It's just banking up to this Whirling Death. I guess the other way to look at it is we could play the Precious Pet this turn, and then next turn we'll have 4 units on board, so if we want a group shot for 2, it really all depends on what unit he's going to add to the board. I think I kind of like the idea of not playing Whirling Death. You know, if he wants to say put the Vanguard Sergeant in front of a Trifarian, then we just win, outright win the combat. And then if he wants to put it in front of one of these smaller units, we bash for 1 million damage. Drawing Weapon Hilt was quite nice, though. Okay.
You will not prevail. Meet them head on. You will not prevail. I protect my own.
Okay. Seems pretty positive. Got him to 8. 3 units on board. He's only got 2 spell mana, so he's not going to be doing much here. Drawing a unit here would be fantastic. It's like this would be a perfect spot to come in and draw Darius, but you can't have it all, I guess.
A Demacian soldier is worth 10 foes.
Got this from a side quest.
To the field!
Okay, if he passes back, this is fairly awkward, but this is a win for us. So how do we feel about doing Weapon Hilt plus Whirling Death this turn, so we get to open attack and try and kill next turn? I think that's good. Weapon Hilt here. This does get blown up. I mean, he's playing P and Z, and so if he hits us with like random removal spell, this is like an actual disaster. But if this is successful, the game's just over. There it is. As we said, if this is successful, the game is just over. GG, nice little 7 winner for Darius. I'm glad to send him off to the netherworld of the expedition with a nice 7 winner. And so yeah, that wasn't really how I expected this kind of deck to come together. When we were talking about the history of Darius and the kind of things that you run into, it tends to be the really aggressive Noxus decks, or more commonly as we do these days, just the big Overwhelms deck, as to where it's very easy to pair into say like Freylord, and then you're pulling off all of the like early game Freylord overwhelms into all the big Noxus overwhelms in the mid to late game, and then you just attack every turn, and you assume that you're going to get a trade, but you get to chip in a little bit of damage on your trade. It's a very straightforward and strong and fun deck. But you do the same thing with Shurima. You can try and get some vulnerable challenges in the early game, and then finish off with Ruin Runners. But this idea that we had of the quick attackers on the quick attack attached, I should say, onto the Glory Seeker, I think that was fine. It's a little slow, and we didn't get to pull it off at any point today. But I think it's still a reasonable strategy, even especially in these decks to where we have a bunch of 1-drops in it. So if you're able to say play Yordle Squire on 1, the Trifarian Challenger on 2. Then on turn 3, you play another 1-drop along with the quick attack thing. That's a pretty incredibly powerful curve, especially if your opponent's 2-drop can only trade with your 1s. And so at the end of the day, if like we play the 1, the 2, and then the 1 and the 2 on turn 3, and then I say our opponent curved 1, 2, 3, if we're able to take down their 3-drop with our 2, and then just trade everything else across the board, then at the end of the day, they spent 6 mana and have 0 remaining. We've spent 6 mana and have 4 remaining. It's pretty tough to come back from that. And so that was the idea. It never really came together, but I think that's at least, a decent proposition, especially when you're in this Nox and Might archetype that doesn't have a partner pairing archetype. And so if you find the Blood on the Ice Darius, that's where it gets to be pretty easy to assemble Yetis or assemble the Overwhelms or whatever. You can kind of figure it out. But here, where you're just getting the random champions in pack 2, you're kind of, to the whims of the dice as far as the decks you're able to construct. And so I think we took a good path, right? I think that the Yuumi is definitely better than getting stuck into that bad Darius or the bad Swain archetype. And then we definitely didn't want to be paired up with Leona. Noxus Freylord or Noxus Targon's just not a thing. And so glad we dodged that one as well. But at the end of the day, nice little run, nice little victory. I know we have some rewards to click on. I saved some with the last video to just ensure we had something for this. We got a couple things to click on here. I think it's just some essences out of this. I think we're going to hit an icon or something from the gauntlets. And then I think we have a weekly vault there. What do we got here? Call of the Wild. This is a card we talked about extensively in Expedition, and they just eventually removed it from the game. It was just never good enough. I'm curious if there's going to be a constructed place where a card like Call of the Wild is good. But it's one of these things to where we've forgotten about this thing. It might just be a Yeti or 2 away from actually being a real card. If this is drawing 2, then it's doing pretty good. If it draws 3, it's insane. So we could make this premium. Primal Strength might see a little bit of play, but Call of the Wild is forgettable. Without Expedition, who would even know? All right, open up all of our chests, all of our capsules. We'll call it a day. I think we still have stuff we can physically open in these that aren't shards. I know I went through and 100%ed a lot of the collection, but I felt it's kind of awkward in that the new cards come out and that's the only thing we need, so we just craft them all, and then once we start opening up packs after that, then they come in the natural way. But everything, extra copies all across the board. I don't know. We might have gotten all of the new, whatever Magical Misadventures, is that the newest set? We might have gotten all the cards out of it already. I don't know. You gotta spend this 300k dust on something though. It's not gonna be Expeditions in at any point soon. I'm curious if Riot will ever add in some kind of dust sink. They at this point they seem pretty all in on just selling cosmetics, but this is definitely not a game to where there's a balance between, do I spend these shards on something or not? It is such an irrelevant currency. We got an Expedition token. We might get to use this one. I went back and looked the other day as people asked me oh shit, are they really getting rid of Expedition? That they were supposed to take the the tokens out of the weekly vault, and then they just never did it. And so they probably don't know how to, given that things like Jace haven't made their way into Expedition and they couldn't figure out how to do that. I figure that they were like, yeah, we're going to take these out of the game, and then they went to the team in charge of that, and they were just like, no, that's not worth it. That's not worth the time, my dude. Just fucking leave it, and then we'll just like what I assume is going to happen is they don't take anything like Expedition out of the game. They just like do away with this button. This button just goes away, and they just leave everything about Expedition still in the game. Don't take anything out with it, just hidden from view. But nonetheless, that's speculation that's irrelevant to all of us. We're going to go ahead and call that one a day here. And so, hope everyone enjoyed the trial. You found the quick attacks to be a little bit more challenging. You learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.